Hare Krishna. Krishna, again, a little late here. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumaditamina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. So I'm continuing the discussion here. Chapter 9, passage is from, it's from verse 10 or 11 to verse number 25. We've covered verses 11 to 14. And we'll try to cover verses 15 through 25. Let's see if we can make it today. So earlier in the chapter, Krishna has in chapter 7 and 8, and the beginning of chapter 9, Krishna has discussed different types of devotees. The basic message is that the souls are incarcerated in the material energy, and if they want to come out of the material energy, then they should have devotion for Krishna. Daiviyesha gunamayi mama maya darataya mameva ye prapadyante mayamitam tarantite. So jivas are suffering an insurmountable maya, and if they want to come out of maya, then they should become a devotee. So then there are different types of devotees that one can become. So in the previous chapters, we heard about the Ananya Bhakta, so he's exclusively a devotee. That is the best type from all the things that we've heard. And then there are other types of devotees, those who have desires for enjoyment, those who have desires for freedom from suffering, those who are inquisitive, those who want freedom from birth and death. These are 4, plus the Ananya Bhakta, that's 5. Then there are those who are called as Gyanis or Yoga Mishra Bhaktas. So that makes 7 types of devotees that Krishna has discussed so far. And then he says of these, the Ananya Bhakta is the best one. But all of them basically come out of Maya. Then there's another types of devotees that are considered inferior to these types. So you have the Ananya Bhakta at the top, and then you have the Mishra Bhaktas just below them. Then there are types of devotees who are below these Mishra Bhaktas. They perform what is called as Jnana Yagya. Jnana Yagnena Chapyanye Yajanto Mamapasate Ekotwena Prataktwena Bahuda Vishrusto Mukam. So Krishna says there are others, Cha Apyanye. There are others who worship me, Yajanto Mamapasate. But the Jnana Yagya, they perform what's called as the Jnana Yagya. And these persons are of 3 types. Ekatwena Pritaktwena Bahuda Vishruto. So Ekatwena means they meditate on God as non-different. Well, they meditate on themselves as non-different from God. That is their primary, that is their meditation when they worship. That they are God. They are non-different from God. This is called Ekatwena, or is also referred to as Ahangra Upasana, which basically means you worship yourself as Brahman or as divinity. So they think like that. Then this is Prataktwena. They worship various deities in Vedic culture, the various demigods, but they see those demigods as different forms of Brahman. So their meditation is on Brahman, but they see these various demigods as forms of Brahman, and then they worship those demigods, concentrating on them as forms of Brahman or spirit consciousness. Bahuda Vishwatomukam. The third type is they look at the whole universe as a manifestation of Brahman. So they're not necessarily thinking of themselves specifically as Brahman or absolute truth God, or worshiping some different deity, but they are looking at all of nature and seeing that this nature is a manifestation of Brahman. So although they are directing their energy either at their own self or at these various demigods or at nature itself, their meditation is on it as Brahman, as spirit. This is called the Jnana Yagya. So they're not materialist, and they're not exactly misled either. This is things that they're also getting from Shastra. So as a result of this meditation, they can get the liberation because their focus is on Brahman actually. Although externally they're worshiping themselves with some deities or nature, their focus is on the supreme absolute reality known as Brahman. This resembles a verse earlier in the Bhagavad-gita, chapter 4, where Krishna, in that chapter, he's talking about yagya. He specifically is speaking about how the enlightened person, yagya acharita, he performs yagya. But he wants to talk about what is the meditation of that enlightened karma yogi who performs yagya. So he's working in this world, but he performs acts of yagya. But what is his meditation when he performs yagya? So this famous verse is there, 423. No, 424, yes. Brahmarpanam Brahma Havir Brahmakno Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva Tina Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhi. So this verse is saying all the different elements of a yagya. We aren't familiar with this because we're not part of Vedic culture. We haven't experienced the proper Vedic yagya. But there is fire, there's a ladle for offering the ghee, there's the ghee itself, there's a brahmana who's performing the yagya itself, there's the yajaman. Yajaman means the one who is sponsoring the yagya. So the karma yogi, he sees that all these are actually Brahman. The ladle is Brahman, the ghee that's being offered to the fire is Brahman, the fire itself is Brahman, the priest is Brahman, the yajaman is also Brahman. This is his meditation. Although he's performing yagya, he thinks like this. Brahmaiva tena gantavya Brahma karma samadhina. Because his samadhina means his meditation absorption, is that all these activities that are going on in the yagya is Brahman. So at the end, he attains Brahman, because that is his meditation. So externally, it appears that he's acting like anyone else, but inside he is meditating that this is the absolute reality manifesting. So similarly, these types of devotees we're hearing about now, 9, 15, is similar type. They're either worshiping themselves, which is considered lowest type, or they're worshiping demigods, or they're seeing all of nature. But as Brahmin, that is their meditation. Because they're meditating on Brahman, they will attain liberation. So these other types we've heard about, the different devotees, they attain also liberation, but a devotional type of liberation. They either go back to God or they attain the same plan as God, the same form as God. There are different types of personal realizations. And then there's liberation into Brahman, like merging. That is called Sayuja Mukti. So these persons who have this meditation on reality as Brahman, they will attain Sayuja Mukti.
It's temporary.
It is not temporary. If you merge into Brahman, then you are there forever. This is why this particular goal is considered most abominable for Shuddha Bhakti school. The Srimad Bhagavatam, the second verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Dharma projita kaitava atra parama nirmatsaranam satam. So it mentions that in this Bhagavatam, the Parama Dharma is going to be preached. Parama Dharma means Shuddha Bhakti or pure Bhakti, Ananya Bhakti will be preached. And projita kaitava, and all cheating dharma will be kicked out. So basically, cheating dharma means anything that is not pure Kevala Ananya Bhakti. That is all kicked out. But our acharyas mentioned the word ujita means to kick out. So pra ujita, like pra is like an intensifier. Like we have, what's the word we have in English? It's an intensifier, veritable. I think the word is veritable. Someone says he was like veritably something loud. Then the word veritable is like an intensifier. It's to show out the great force in which the word is connected to. So pro ujita means like very strongly they're kicking out this thing, this cheating dharma. And our acharya says this pro ujita specifically refers to mukti, this goal of mukti, merging into Brahman, because that is also an eternal result. So if you merge into Brahman, that's it. And no chance for bhakti yoga. That doesn't mean it's like for devotees that is considered, for devotees in Shuddha Bhakti school, that is considered hellish. What is actually is not hellish. It is very nice also. Brahmananda is called, Brahmananda means the bliss of Brahman. So that is much superior to anything available in the material world. Even our acharyas basically describe it as it's basically like peace. It's completely devoid of any misery. So when you're going from miserable condition to that, it's very nice. It is like a happiness. As we've described it, it's like going from negative integers to zero. But there are positive integers also. So positive integers is like Premananda, or Bhakti Ananda, the bliss of Bhakti. So Brahmananda is also very nice. It's considered vastly superior than anything available in this material world. But devotees in Shuddha Bhakti schools still considered to be hellish, because the chance for Bhakti Ananda is then forever kind of cut off. Like once you're there, you're there. And yeah. Yes. You're out of the material world and you just exist as a particle of consciousness and not the sheet of consciousness that is Brahman. So devotees do not, they're specifically heavy on this mukti. Bhukti is not considered as bad as mukti, because in bhukti, you still suffer in this material world trying to enjoy. So you still have body, there's still a chance to bump into a devotee and you get opportunity for bhakti. If you merge into Brahman, then devotees are not floating around in Brahman. Even if they were floating around in Brahman, you have no body, no mind, no senses. So then they will speak to you, and you will hear. Yes. So that's not very much appreciated by devotees. What are you thinking?
It's so confusing. Like if like you were saying, there's positive integers, but like so there's nothing wrong with like striving for like zero, basically. Like why don't we all just strive for that? Like obviously there's positive integers, but if that's just like peaceful, then is there nothing wrong with striving for
No,
conversion?
there's nothing like morally wrong as such.
Yeah.
For striving. So some sadhus strive for that. Some are impersonal.
Satisfied. You're satisfied in that state, right?
Yes, there is satisfaction in that state. But it is not bhakti. Just like, suppose you have some debt, and you go from having debt to no debt, zero. So you feel a little peaceful at that time. But then it's much nicer to have some money in the bank balance. That is it. That is even. You also be peaceful, and you also be happy. So in the same way, you're going from negative integers of the suffering material existence to zero, you're peaceful. Then above peace, there's also bliss of a positive happiness. So that is what this particular school is advocating for. But there are other schools and personal schools, they will say just the 0 point. So technically speaking,
That's so weird that Krishna facilitates that, because it's like he's like letting someone not be his servant forever.
no, they're always serving. They're always serving, but they're serving in it's an indirect way or impersonal way. I read specifically in this one book of our acharyas, bhagavad-gita, it is described there, that they serve Krishna by lighting up the Brahmani effulgence. Because they are also bright and they're contributing to the brightness of the Brahmani effulgence. So that is their service. It is not a very profound service, but a service nonetheless. I read this in bhagavad-gita. I thought it was amusing. In any case, why it should be surprising that Krishna will facilitate that? He's also facilitating so many souls turning away from him just for wanton sense gratification. Krishna is not an envious God, so he's chill. You can do as you like, and he is happy to reciprocate this or that way. Happy means he will reciprocate. He's particularly only happy with his devotees. And with all others, all right, as you like, you can do. So Krishna is very chill in that sense. He allows souls to express their desires.
So they're still his servants, but they're just never going to act on it. They're never
Yes,
gonna, like,
basically.
persons.
Yes. The Shakti, so the souls, all souls are energy. So energies always serve the energetic source, consciously or unconsciously. So like our energy is unconscious because energy of body is unconscious, but it is serving us, although it is not conscious of it. So the jivas are always serving God, but they can be unconscious of that or conscious. So if they're unconscious of that, then basically they're called as jiva shakti, tatasha shakti. And if they become conscious of it, they're called as bhaktas. I'm serving Krishna with awareness. Then they're called as bhaktas. They're not called as bhaktas until they're actually performing service to Krishna. So sometimes devotees, we say that everyone is like eternally a servant of Krishna. We think that they're eternally devotees. But they're not. That is just a potential to be a devotee. They are eternally servant because their energy and that potential exists in them as souls. But they're not bhaktas until they actually become bhaktas. Just like Shukadeva Goswami, he was also an impersonalist. He was not in Maya. There was no Maya for him, but he wasn't a devotee. He was completely beyond Maya, but he was not a devotee. Only after he heard Srimad Bhagavatam that he became a devotee.
So when impersonalists attain like the highest state, they attain peace, but when a personalist attains the highest state, they attain bliss.
Yes, that includes peace.
Yeah.
Right. For the Bhakti Amanda. That's just a way of describing it. Obviously, all these higher states of awareness are hard to understand from the reference point of negative integers and bondage. It is just like if you're in bitter land. So one land is there, bitter land. So everything in bitter land is bitter. So when something is a little less bitter, you call it sweet. So suppose someone is coming from sweet rice land. So you are from bitter land. Someone comes from sweet rice land. Now he has to describe to you what his sweet rice tastes like. But he has to give something that you can relate to, but you are from bitter land. So what would he say? So he would say sweet rice is like this thing that is less bitter. And he said, oh, it's something like that. It's actually nothing like that. But trying to get some sort of approximation to give you an appreciation for that level of consciousness, he would say that this sweet rice is something like this less bitter thing, which you are calling sweet, but is actually bitter. So similarly, we are in bitter land, the samsara consciousness, we're suffering. So if you have to describe any of these states, it's really hard to, it's hard to really understand. So Brahmananda means like devoid of suffering, basically. You experience your own self. Bhakti-nanda is a positive ecstasy, as exhibited by these great devotees in the scriptures. So you'll see like these highly advanced personas, they're very peaceful people. They're not going around like acting crazy and, going nuts in the ecstasy. Well, the devotees are going nuts in love of God. So that is a difference. So they're Brahmananda, they're experiencing, they're peaceful, very sober, grave, meditative type. And these devotees, they're here one shlok from the Bhagavatam, like breaking everything, rolling on the ground, screaming and yelling and chasing everyone around the room. And so that is positive ecstasy.
And that's what the soul wants. That's or the soul is content to feel peace.
Some souls will feel, yes, of course. The soul can be content to feel peace. Because that is his nature, actually. So if you're situated in your own nature, it is also very nice. But there's a positive option also. This is a little bit because devotees in our family, we're used to putting down the impersonal so hard, and we give no viability to that whatsoever. Because we want to attract you to pure devotion, so we have to criticize everything else. That's just the method. But actually, nowadays there aren't really genuine impersonalists also. They don't really have a living culture anymore. So much. But there are people who just like kind of ascribe to some sort of impersonal idea, and they're mostly sense enjoyers. Genuine impersonals like Shukadeva Goswami, he was genuine impersonals for the four Kumaras before they smelled the scent of Tulsi that was carried by the breeze which had passed through Krishna's toes. So before that, they were impersonals, and they smelled that and they became devotees. Or Shukadeva Goswami heard one shlok and he became a devotee of Krishna. Otherwise, before that, they were genuine impersonals, and they were Atma Rama. That means they were self-satisfied sages. It wasn't like, they were feeling like, this is really nice being peaceful, but actually, I'm feeling empty inside. It wasn't like that. The boys will tell a story like that, so that make sure that our devotees who have some Buddhist background or this background and so on don't get deviated from chanting Hare Krishna. So we'll just criticize it. But actually, none of these genuine impersonators, they don't have like moments of like, yeah, this isn't really it. That doesn't happen to them. Actually, what happens to them, they're satisfied when they contact the devotee. And the devotee has positive ecstasy, and they're like, that looks very nice. They become attracted. And they get pulled away from that impersonal absorption toward the more positive thing. But it's not that they're experiencing the positive thing and they're like feeling like this isn't really enough, so let me go back to matter. No one is that crazy. It's just like if you're eating nice lasagna, before you were eating stool, now you're eating lasagna, you would think, no, actually, what is this lasagna? I'll go back to the stool. That doesn't happen. They're not crazy. So even if you should kind of think that they at some point they will become dissatisfied with that, then where will they go? If they don't meet devotees, where will they go? If they don't contact the positive ecstasy, they're not going to go back to negative energies. So in any case, they'll be satisfied there and then. So like this. All right. So this Jnana Yajna is performed by these people. There are 3 types we have just mentioned. So the last type, Bahuda Vishvatomukam, they're looking at nature and seeing nature as a manifestation of Brahman, and they're worshiping that. So then Krishna kind of expands on that idea a little bit in 16 through 19.
How do they worship that? They do arti?
No, it's more like a meditation. So that, because remember in chapter 8, Yam Yam Vapi Smanam Bhavam Tejante Kalevanam Tam Tam Niyama Ashtaya. Mixing up words. Of course you don't know. I'm mixing up words. I could cheat you. But Yam Yam Vapi Smanam Bhavam Tyanja. Why am I forgetting this verse all of a sudden? I always put this verse. So this verse says, whatever state, smaram bhavam, whatever nature you're remembering at the time of quitting your body. Yes. Tyajatyante kalevanam. When you quit the body, whatever state you are remembering, tam tam vivaite kontaya sadata bhava bhavita. Your mind is always absorbed in that particular state, then you will attain that state without fail. So that means that is their mind is like this. Brahman Karma Samadhi. They're looking at nature, just saying this is a manifestation of absolute truth Brahman. So you can't exactly think of Brahman per se. You meditate that this is not different from the absolute reality. This is a meditation. And so this is all, of course, according to scriptural edicts that they practice some sort of meditation. So their mind is kind of fixed on absolute reality manifesting in so many different ways. So the Bahuda Vishvatomukha. So they don't perform arti or anything like that. Those are people who worship devatas, they perform arti impersonally. That is also impersonal, but they worship the Brahman is manifesting as these deities and they perform some arti. Then some person worshiping himself or meditating on himself is not there. They probably just sit and practice meditation. So chanting Om, Pranava mantra is a big thing in all these practices. So then Krishna expands on this nature point. Aham kratu aham yagna swadaham aham oshadam mantroham aham evagyam aham agni aham bhutam. It is I who am the ritual, I the sacrifice, the offerings to the ancestors, the healing herb, the transcendental chant. I am the butter and the fire and the offering. Pitaham asa jagato mata dhata pitamaha vedyam pavitram umkara riksama yajra evacha. I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. I am the object of knowledge, the purifier, and the syllable Om. I am also the Rig, the Sama, and the Yajurvedas. Basically, it's everything that you'll encounter in nature. So some examples are being given, only a few of his vibhutis. Gate Bharta Prabhu Sakshi Nivasa Sharanam Sure Prabhava Pralaya Sthanam Nidhanam Bijam Avyayam. I am the goal, the sustainer, the master, the witness, the abode, the refuge, and the most dear friend. I am the creation and the annihilation, the basis of everything, the resting place, and the eternal seed. The eternal Bijam Avyayam. The eternal seed means because creation is coming from him. So he's a seed of creation, but he's a seed that does not become destroyed. With a normal seed, once it sprouts, then the seed is finished. But he is Bijam, seed, Avyayam, imperishable seed. Because although creation is coming from him, he is not destroyed. That is meaning. And then 19, Tapami aham aham varsham, nigrinam mutrajami cha amritam chavamrityuscha sarasa chaham Arjuna. O Arjuna, I give heat and I withhold and send forth the rain. I am immortality and I am also death personified. Both spirit and matter are in me. So this is an example of God being basically everything that is manifest in nature. And they're seeing him. They're seeing everything in nature as a manifestation of God or of Brahman, his energy, his vibhutis specifically. So these persons, because again, their meditation is like this, so they attain the Supreme Lord. They attain liberation, Brahman liberation. So they're less than all those devotee types we heard earlier. these types will attain liberation. Sayuja Mukti. Understand? So, what is wrong?
What's wrong?
Yes.
I don't know. It's just so bewildering to me for some reason.
What's bewildering?
Well, it's just like the fact that they attain liberation, like they still attain liberation, like, and they still become fully satisfied. Like I don't know, for some reason wrapping my head
I don't know. We have hard devotees. We have hard time hearing that because we're envious.
around.
You mean they only doing that and they still get a nice result?
Yeah, well, that's very hard too. It's just because they're all like usually like fasting, like fasting,
Yes.
but yeah, I don't know.
Yes, there. Everyone is. Some people. Some souls are attracted to liberation, and Krishna is given paths in the Vedas for getting liberation, and they follow those paths, and they also attain liberation.
Like I basically just didn't know that was like viable. Like I thought it was like.
Well, to be real, in Kali Yuga, we often criticize them because they're not so viable in Kali Yuga. In previous yugas, so many were doing this actually. Bhakti, in one sense, was a more hidden thing. But in Kali Yuga, all these other systems basically become eroded. There are hardly anyone who has proper adhikar for these processes and genuineness. So therefore, we also criticize for that reason. Because even if it is a viable process, who has adhikar to perform them? Like if you have to do Ashtanga Yoga properly, if you read about what Ashtanga yogis have to do, or Gyan yogis even have to do, then who has adhikar for that? So the path may be viable, but then no one qualified to walk in the path. So then we criticize. Why are you even thinking to do that? You have no adhikar for that. Or just all in Kali Yuga Krishna. So we will speak in this way. Because that is also true. But why there should not be paths, other paths? Krishna is given in the Shastra many paths by which people can attain the fruits of their desire. So some have desires, of course, for devotion and devotional liberation, but some have desires for just liberation, and others have desire for material enjoyment. Of course, in all cases, they can perform bhakti. Akama sarva kamova moksha kama udhariti. Tivrena bhakti yogena yajanti purusham para. It says whether you are akama, or you have all desires, or you have mukti kama, you have desire for liberation. In all cases, tivrena bhakti yogena, you should perform only devotion. And by doing devotional sadhana with that particular desire inside, whatever it may be, then Krishna will reciprocate with that desire. Following his own statement in Bhagavad-gita, Yaya tam mam prapadyante tam sutaya bhajamyaham. So some people may perform bhakti sadhana also, but forgetting liberation. That is what they're holding in their heart. So Krishna is reciprocating according to what his own statement in Bhagavad-gita. Now, it may be the case that by doing bhakti yoga, they come out of those desires, they associate with devotees and come out and get some other desire. Generally, that actually happens, but sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes they just remain as impersonalists. And Krishna reciprocates with that. Why shouldn't he? That is his own promise in the Bhagavad Gita. And even in Bhagavad Gita himself, he says such souls, they do welfare work for the whole world. In many places, he says this. Dharma bhuta prasanatmana shochati nakamshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu. They do welfare work for the whole world. How do they do welfare work for the whole world? By not being a nonsense. That is welfare for the whole world. You stop being nonsense, you do a good service to the entire earth planet. So they're also appreciating them. But we are from the Srimad Bhagavatam school. So Srimad Bhagavatam is strong message. Dharma projita kaitava atra. And this Bhagavatam praujita, we're strongly kicking this out. Before Srimad Bhagavatam, these other ideas are also very like, oh, that is also very nice. You're a pious person, that is also very nice. Oh, you're going for liberation, you're renounced, knowledgeable. That is very nice. That is spiritual. Mostly it was stuff like that. And then Srimad Bhagavatam comes along and said, oh, this is nonsense. Only this thing. And we're coming from that school, and so you're accustomed to hearing devotees speak like that. So that is also true. But just like we were hearing the other day in the Bhagavatam, this bewildered me some. Well, not bewildered me, but it's a little interesting for me to think about. Prahlad Maharaj was saying that we should offer all respects to the jivas and their desires, because the super soul is situated in their heart. And I was like, I get offering respect to all the jivas, but and their desires. I'm like, some people got some really jacked up desires. I'm supposed to respect them and their desires. I found it to be a fascinating point.
What's the logic?
Probably the logic behind that is that, well, the logic was because you can see the super souls there. So some jivas there are bewildered, they have these desires, so you're respecting them. And just like you go outside, so there's so many conditioned souls, they have material desires. So you don't go outside and just start blasting them. You could. I mean, the Christians try that strategy out all the time with the megaphone and go out and start cursing everyone in hell. But then the only result you get from that is polluting your own consciousness. You don't become a better person. So the way is just like you say, yeah, that will lead to suffering. But you have to have respect because they're not going to listen to you, at least not right now. Unless you're a very powerful orator, you have some real shakti. Then you just respect. That doesn't mean you have to associate with them and so on. But you just respect them. That's the desire. You have to respect that. And you would become a devotee, and no one is bothering you about it. They're respecting you for being a devotee, or not for being a devotee, but they like do your thing, and they're doing their thing. So they're having some respect. If you don't respect, then your mind will become polluted with contempt and with pride, and then that can be dangerous for the heart and so on. So, what is the difficulty? Krishna is very kind. He says, as you approach me, I reciprocate accordingly. But to speak of these other paths that are mentioned in Shastras, which are coming from him, but he said you can do bhakti yoga for getting those things also. That's what the Srimad Bhagavatam is telling you. Of course, that is somewhat of a trick, because the idea is that the pure bhakti yoga paths will purify your bliss desires. Still, it may come up. All right? You look almost like distressed. Like you're upset to hear that they're satisfied.
No, I'm not upset. It's just very yeah, I am a little stressed, but not Yeah. It's just I just kind of I just feel like being satisfied. I'm like, okay, just attaining the spiritual sky. I'm just that seems good. I don't know, yeah. It seems like there's nothing wrong with that, and that it kind of makes me just want to attain that. It's no suffering, right? Almost I'll settle for that, kind of, or not I'll settle for that. But
settle for it, you have to get it first.
Yeah, but it's
there is no mention that it's easier to get.
Yeah, but it's
So no need to be bewildered. All these things are included also within being a devotee. Just like if you have $100, then you also have $10. That is included within having $100. So might as well go for the $100, and you will get your peace also, your freedom from misery also. Yes. So at least go for one.
I guess I was thinking about it from a selfish point of view, because I'm just for me, I'm just I just want all my suffering to go away, so I'm just thinking that's fine. But then if I were thinking in terms of pleasing Krishna, I would want to attain the positive features. But right now I'm just
yeah, so these yogis and so on, they think about themselves. They want liberation from samsara, and they perform sadhana to get that.
It's just it's not the highest, but it's still satisfying. And I feel we're all just looking for satisfaction. satisfaction.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not good with words. Something about it is just.
So you can become Gani and try that out. See how it works out for you. Or Buddhist. They won't have nice prasadam and deity worship and kirtan and all. That's bhakti path. On their path is you go into some corner somewhere and you meditate for days by yourself until you crack and then help. So you can try if you want to try that process out. That is why Krishna has glorified his bhakti yoga in the beginning of this chapter. He also said this process is susukam kartum, which means it is happily performed. So if you want to do some other sadhana, you can try, but it's very distressful. With this path, happily performed because you can have prasadam, you can talk to devotees.
Yeah, but I guess it's like when you're like, I'm not sure if this is true, but it seems like when you're on your personal path, like you almost like become detached from the desires of the body or the needs of the body. Like, you're still there, but you're just attached from them. I feel like that's very attractive as opposed to like attaining bhakti, but you're still a slave to your senses, basically.
No, where it's not mentioned anywhere like that. True devotees are not attached to their bodies or their senses. Otherwise, how Prahlad Maharaj taking risks to preach to his father? If there was any attachment to the body, he would not take such a chance. But he is telling his father about Vishnu, knowing very well his father would persecute him.
But like about like hunger, like devotees, like even I feel like, I mean, I could be wrong because I don't know, some do, but I feel like even advanced devotees, they don't get prasad, like so it's like,
oh my god.
So I feel like they kind of are attached to their, so like.
No. So this is, you're looking at the people you're living with or seeing, and you're making some deduction. Like, first of all, your deduction may be wrong.
Yeah.
Second of all, even if your deduction was right, let's say your deduction was right, they're attached to their bodies like this. So then you may conclude that they are neophyte devotees, so they're attached to their bodies, because advanced devotees are not attached to their bodies. Advanced devotees are like Prahlad Maharaj, Haridas Thakur, all these devotees we're hearing about in Shastra. Raghunath Das Goswami, taking a palm full of yogurt every other day, and then stopping that also. So they're not attached to their bodies. So then you'll say that you may conclude that, oh, this is maybe not as advanced a devotee as maybe people are thinking. So then, or you may think they're not advanced, so let me go over to this impersonal school. Then you'll discover that so many neophytes are there also. Because wherever you go, you can't escape neophytes. They're everywhere. They're like rats in New York City. Wherever you go, you will find them. So neophytes are existing everywhere. So you will go to the impersonal school thinking, yes, their path, they're more rigid and more detached. Then you'll see they are also fighting over who took my prasadam or my food, or who took the stories there, or all these renunciates, they're criticizing these householders. So Ramanujacharya, spiritual master of these sannyasis, played one trick on them while they were bathing. He switched all their cloth around. So when they came out, they were taking, who took my cloth? And then all the sannyasis started arguing. Even they are having nothing, but still they're arguing over who took my kolpan, who took. So that thing is going on when highest awareness isn't there. You may see like that. Or you may see that they're attached and your vision is just wrong, because at the end of the day, they're just the real thing, at least in Bhakti, is do you have devotion or not? So Badar Pandit, he made that mistake when he looked at Pundarik Vidyanidhi, because Pundarik Vidyanidhi looked very much like a sense enjoyer, oiling his hair and spitting in one very expensive bowl and having perfumes everywhere and being fanned. He looked like a straight up just like Maha sense enjoyer. Vidar Pandit also thought like that. This guy is a sense gratifier. And Mukunda Dutt could make out his mind, so he chanted one shloka from Bhagavatam, and then Pundarika Vidyanidhi went into ecstasy for 6 hours of Krishna consciousness. So Vidar Pandit said, I made a mistake. I made an offense in my mind. So your deductions could be incorrect, or even if they are correct, that may mean that those devotees aren't on the highest level of advancement. That is a possibility also. So then you go to some other place, you'll discover they're also not on the highest. So those are practicing persons. So in practice, you'll see always a gradation of practitioners. And when you talk about people who have attained, so these yogis who are attained satisfaction, so yeah, they're like this, they're very detached from the body. But there's devotees who have also attained bhakti ananda, but that includes within all these other things. So they also are very detached from material body. So I'm giving Prahlad Maharaj, if you would not preach to someone, if you knew they would throw you under stampeding elephants, like Haribo, take this book. If you know that this person will, take you and put you in some boiling hot oil, you would probably not say anything to him, right? You would probably, we have to respect from a distance. But we are attached to the body. But Prahlad Maharaj, there was nothing for him. His father persecuted him in so many horrible ways. He didn't die. Finally, sent him back to school. You get trained up. And then he made all his friends devotees. And that just like, he was just completely not attached to the body, clearly. Otherwise, how he can do like that? So you have to look at the exemplars in all groups. And then you can try to take some conclusion. Devotees are also very self-satisfied entities. They're like actually lost in some other world. At least even in today's verse we were hearing about that they're horripilation and they're just like lost in some ecstasy. They look like dull-headed people.
Yeah, but so I feel like impersonalists also kind of are lost in the sense because they're seeing God as like everything. So they're just like so like,
Yes.
So like I don't know. I just feel like I have some like probably like some personalist impressions.
Yes.
For sure. I was very attracted to I don't know if I was talking about class, but I was very attracted to like to Ram Dass before he just like I don't know, I feel like that forms some impressions in me too.
Yes. So there's one nice verse, Bhagavad-gita chapter 12, verse 5. Klesha adhikataras tesham avyakta sakta chaitasam. Where Krishna says that for those who try to attain the absolute by impersonalism, then it gives so much klesha. Klesha adhikataras tesham. They get so much klesha from trying to attain. Klesha means misery. From trying to attain the absolute through impersonal path, they suffer so much. Klesha. Because you can't think, for someone who's embodied, to think of something unembodied without qualities, without form is practically impossible. That is practically what the process requires you to do, is to start to strip away all of sense of form, name, qualities, and so on. So Krishna says this path is very difficult. It gives misery for those on those paths. And then Prabhupada in his commentary says, even if after some time they get association with devotees and they become a devotee by that association, then that path gives misery by making it hard for them to give up the impersonal idea. He writes like that in the purport, that the imprint is there. So that might become a little bit of a challenge also. It's quite possible. So you want to be impersonalist? Should we kick you out? He doesn't want to answer. He's like, well, kind of.
I mean, I just want to like know the truth.
Yes. So the truth is in Bhagavad-gita.
Yeah.
So you read it, you hear it nicely. Now, what is the difficulty? So Krishna has talked about impersonalism there also. And he's also talked about bhakti. And then he's letting it free. Yathaya Chasita Thakur, you make your choice. So if you want to do impersonalism, that is okay also. But you will not do any sadhu sangha impersonalism. There won't be so much prasadam also. There will not be any deity worship. There is no sankirtan. That is also frowned upon. There is no dancing, no footwork. Everything that is very nice, then one is always invited to. In Chicago, we have one in-person that's moving to our center. And he was very attached to his, and he actually only contacted this particular school literally like a couple of weeks before he contacted devotees. And so the time was like almost the same. And he became very attached to devotees because, devotees are very nice and attractive in so many ways. And he ended up moving into the ashram with us. He lived with us for 1 year in the ashram. But he was so attached to this impersonal school. It was like some sort of Shaivite school. So finally, we just called the ashram that he was attached to. We just called him up and said, we have one guy here in our ashram who's really attached to this thing. Can he come live with y'all and learn properly? Because he was just like floating around, and devotees, we love criticizing Mayavadis and impersonal. We just get a great, and everyone knew he had impersonal attachment. So whenever Prabhupada would come up to some purport or smashing, we would all like look at him, crack some joke, and like and then they would have a great big laugh and then just leave him. And then he would come to me afterwards and, but isn't impersonal that is also, it can be a genuine thing also. And not so many genuine paths, but it's like that he would feel solid, so he would remain attached to impersonalism. So we just called this place up and we sent him there also after 1 year. He was very happy. Otherwise he would have never, he somehow didn't have the courage to do it himself. So we just did it for him. We sent him off. Just go wherever your heart is. Definitely will criticize you, but that's just, how we are. We're all still friends to this day. We're all friends. He went there for some short time, 6 months maybe or so. And, he's back in the worldly life. But I assume he still has some sort of practice. Okay, Hari Om Tat Sat. Thanks a lot. We're going to stop there. Bye, online people. Hare Krishna.